I used to pay rent at my dad's house to help him out. Everything was okay until he remarried. His new wife, Lisa, moved in and soon began acting like she owned the place. She even said, "This is my home now. Since you have a job, you should pay more." That night, I packed a few things and left. A month later, my dad called, upset. He said, "Lisa is angry because the bills aren't being paid." I replied, "She said it's her house now, right? Then she should deal with it." I never imagined I'd be writing about this, but here we are. Some background. My parents divorced when I was 12, and my mom got full custody. My relationship with my dad was never very close. He was always more focused on himself than on me. I remember him canceling birthday plans more times than I can count. By the time I was 18, I had stopped expecting much from him. When I was in my mid-20s, I had a stable job and made decent money. My dad, however, was having money troubles. He owned a house but was struggling with the bills. Even though we weren't very close, I felt sorry for him. So when he asked if I could move in and help with rent, I agreed. We had a simple deal. I paid a fair amount, actually more than half the mortgage, and some utilities, and I had my own space in the house. For about a year, everything worked fine. Then Lisa arrived. Enter Lisa. Dad met Lisa online, and within 6 months, she moved in. I was worried from the start. She acted overly nice when she wanted something and would be passive-aggressive when she didn't. At first, she tried to be friendly by asking about my job and personal life, but soon, she started making small remarks about how much space I took up and reminding me that I was just renting. One day, I came home from work to find all my belongings crammed into one room. My bedroom, office, and storage areas were mixed together, and my spare room had been cleared out. I found Lisa sitting on the couch, looking satisfied. I asked, "What happened to my stuff?" Lisa replied, "I needed some space for my things. Since this is my home now, it made sense for me to have a room for my hobbies." I was shocked. "Last I checked, this was Dad's house, and I pay rent here." She smirked and said, "Yes, you did, but now that there are two of us, you need to pay more because you make good money." I looked at her and then at my dad, who avoided eye contact. I asked, "Dad, are you okay with this?" He hesitated and said, "Well, Lisa has a point. Things have changed. Maybe you should pay a bit more." I was stunned. Dad had always been selfish, but now he was letting Lisa treat me badly. That night, I packed my essentials and went to a friend's place without causing a scene. The next day, I found a new apartment and completely moved out within 2 weeks. I never paid another cent for that house. Aftermath. At first, Lisa was happy I left. She had more space and privacy and didn't have to deal with me anymore. But then, a month later, Dad called again. He said, "Lisa is upset because the bills aren't being paid." I let his calls go to voicemail until I finally answered. He said, "Things are tight, and Lisa doesn't earn much. Could you help out for a few months?" I almost laughed. I reminded him, "Lisa said it's her house now, so she should handle it." Dad pleaded, "Please, I really need your help." I answered, "I already paid my share. You chose to let Lisa treat me like a tenant instead of family. Now you have to live with that choice." Then I hung up. Soon, I heard that Lisa couldn't cover the bills, and Dad fell behind on the mortgage. Lisa, who had been so critical of me, began to realize how much I had helped. A few months later, Dad called again, sounding defeated. He said, "Lisa moved out. She couldn't handle a struggling household and left." Dad was left with unpaid bills and a house he couldn't afford. He even asked if I wanted to move back, but I said no. Eventually, he had to sell the house and move into a small apartment. We still talk sometimes, but things are not the same. Dad knows he made mistakes, and while he has apologized, I still feel hurt. And then, Lisa kept coming back. A few months after Lisa left, Dad called me again. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. He asked, "Have you heard from Lisa?" I was surprised and said, "No, why?" Dad explained that Lisa had been showing up unexpectedly at his new apartment. She would knock on the door, act like nothing had happened, and even guilt-trip him about it. Sometimes she brought food or suggested they start over and live together again. At first, Dad said no, but eventually he let her stay over, and things got worse. That's the story of how my dad's new wife turned a simple rent arrangement into a whole family drama. She yelled at the landlord, calling him a slumlord and saying he had no right to boss her around. Then she turned on Dad. "Lisa, you let this happen. You let your kid mess us up again." Dad insisted he wasn't to blame, but Lisa wouldn't listen. She stormed out that night, cursing him. I thought that was the end of it, but then she came after me. A week later, I got home from work and something felt wrong. The lock on my door looked odd. When I went inside, my stomach sank. My apartment was a mess, papers everywhere. My couch cushions were ripped, dishes were broken on the floor, and on my bathroom mirror, someone had written in red lipstick, "Home Wrecker." I felt a chill run down my spine. I immediately called the police, but deep down I knew Lisa was behind it, and I was tired of being nice. I stood in the middle of my ruined apartment, hands shaking as I waited for the cops. I already had a bad feeling about what would happen next. When the officers arrived, they looked around and asked if I had any recent conflicts. Officer 1, any recent problems? Me, yeah, my dad's ex, she's crazy. I explained how she had come into my dad's house, pushed me out, taken over his apartment, and now was taking it out on me. Officer 1, you'd be surprised how often this happens. Exes, roommates, family, they think breaking stuff will make them feel better. Officer 2, did she have a key? That's when things got worse. There was no forced entry, my door was locked and no windows were broken. This meant either she picked the lock or she still had my spare key from when I lived with Dad. I remembered I had given my dad a spare key months ago, thinking, what if I lose mine? But with Dad, it was likely he left it somewhere that Lisa could find. When I told the cops, they sighed. Officer 1, so she could say she had access. That makes things harder. Officer 2, are you sure nothing was stolen? I checked. My laptop, my wallet, even some emergency cash were still there, but something important was missing, my paperwork. Lisa took my files, my lease agreement was gone, some work documents were torn, and a folder with my tax info was completely missing. Officer 2, that's serious. Yeah, no kidding, I replied. They took my report, but without signs of forced entry. There wasn't much they could do, unless Lisa did something even more obvious, like using my stolen documents. I was angry. Lisa was trying to ruin my life. 2 days later, I got an urgent email from my landlord. Landlord, email, we need to talk urgently. When I called him, he sounded very angry. Landlord, you said you didn't have a roommate, but I got a call saying you moved someone in without permission, and they were worried about criminal activity at your unit. I was shocked. Me, what? Who said that? Landlord, they didn't give a name, but they mentioned drug use, loud parties, and possible damage to the unit. Lisa, it has to be Lisa. I've never had a noise complaint, I barely have visitors, but now, because of an anonymous tip, my landlord thinks I'm a problem. I managed to calm him down, explaining that I suspected my dad's crazy ex was trying to get back at me. Fortunately, he believed me. But then another shock came. Landlord, by the way, someone called asking about suing your apartment. They said they were your business partner and wanted to know what the penalty is for breaking your lease early. What the hell? Lisa is trying to get me evicted. I hung up and called Dad right away. Me, your crazy ex is messing up my life. I need you to tell me where she is. Dad, hesitating, I don't know. Me, yes, you do. Don't lie to me. He sighed. It turned out Lisa was now living with a new guy, an older man with money, but instead of being happy, she was still fixated on ruining me. That's when I decided to set a trap. Lisa thought she was clever. She believed she could play her little games from the shadows, but if she was using my stolen paperwork, I could catch her red-handed. Step 1, I froze my credit. If she tried to open accounts in my name, they would be denied. Step 2, I flagged my social security number. If she tried to file taxes as me, it would be caught. Step 3, I installed a security camera above my door. Then I waited. Sure enough, 3 nights later, my camera caught someone tampering with my door. There was no sign of forced entry, but it was Lisa. She stood there for a full minute, fiddling with the lock. Then she pulled out a key that shouldn't exist. She tried to use it, but I had changed my locks. Instead, she just glared at my door, as if she could break it down with sheer force. Then she slipped an envelope under my door and left. I waited until she was gone and then grabbed the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper that read, "I'm not done with you." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about the house anymore. Lisa wanted revenge, and she wasn't stopping. The next morning, I got a call from the cops. "Officer, we need you to come to the station. Someone tried to open a credit card in your name." That was it. I took my camera footage and the envelope Lisa left, and drove to the station. Lisa had no idea what she had done. She thought she was untouchable. that she could mess with me from afar. But she made one big mistake, she left a paper trail, and now it was time to turn the tables. At the police station, I sat with the envelope in my hand. The officer on duty looked at my security footage and nodded. "Officer, yeah, that's her." He then showed me the screen. There she was, Lisa, standing in front of my door, slipping in her threat like it was a scene from a cheap horror movie, and it wasn't the first time she had hurt someone. "Officer, your dad's ex has a history. We've had complaints about identity theft, fraud, and harassment, but no one ever had solid proof until now." Me, so what happens next? "Officer, we're going to bring her in." After 3 long days, I got the call. "Officer, we picked her up. You might want to come down." I hesitated. Did I really want to see her face to face? But I felt I needed to. When I arrived, she was in a room behind one-way glass. I saw her clearly. Me, Lisa. She didn't look smug anymore. Instead, she looked angry. The officer led me into the room. "Officer, she wants to talk to you." I stepped closer, and she glared. "Lisa, you set me up." I laughed bitterly. "Me, set you up? Lisa, you broke into my apartment, tried to steal my identity, and left a note threatening me. You did all this to yourself." She scoffed and looked away. "Lisa, you don't understand, do you?" Me, I do. You're a scammer, a user. You thought you could push me out of my dad's house, take over his life, and when that didn't work, you tried to destroy mine, but you lost." Her face tightened, and then she lowered her voice. "Lisa, your dad deserved it. He's an idiot. He let me move in without knowing who I was. He used you for money, then let me treat you like trash because he's a coward, and you always want his approval, even now." Her words stung, and I couldn't help but agree a little. Lisa smirked as she watched me. "Lisa, you think you won, but you still lost, kid. You'll always be the one begging for scraps from a man who never cared about you." I said nothing. I just walked to the door, looked back once, and said, "Me, enjoy jail, Lisa." Aftermath. A week later, Dad called me. I hesitated but answered. "Dad, what do you want?" After a long silence, he said, "She called me from jail." I said nothing. "Dad, she told me what she said, to you, about me, about how I used you." There was a long pause. "Dad, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought you'd always be there." I felt my chest tighten. Me, yeah, Dad, I did, until you let some woman treat me like garbage in my own home and did nothing to stop it. Another silence. "Dad, I messed up. I almost left." Me, yeah, you did. For the first time, Dad sounded small. "Dad, I don't know how to fix this." And then I realized, he couldn't. Lisa was right, he was weak. He let people walk over him, and I was done cleaning up his mess. Me, you can't fix it, Dad. He sighed as if he wanted to argue but then just gave up. "Dad, I miss you, kid." I felt a twist in my stomach but couldn't return his words. Me, goodbye, Dad. I hung up. Reflection. Years have passed. Lisa was convicted of fraud and identity theft, not only against me but others too. She tried to charm her way out, but the law doesn't care about pretty lies. My dad and I don't talk anymore. He tried reaching out a few times, with apologies and invitations, but I ignored him. I used to think I needed his approval, that if I helped him enough, he'd choose me over himself. But Lisa was right about one thing, he never would be. Now, I don't need him to. I finally learned that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up when it matters. And for once, I chose myself. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more great stories. Don't forget to tap the notification bell, so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts in the comments, we love hearing from you. See you next time, and take care.